Again, my name is Brian Burke, Executive Director for the Center for Family Business based here in Waterloo Region. We are interviewing each of the candidates for mayor, at least as many who are willing to come on the program over the next few weeks. Waterloo mayor candidate, and that is Shannon Weber. Shannon, hey, I wonder how many kilometers you put on.
That's right. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks, Brian, for offering this opportunity. Yeah, I honestly haven't been tracking. I've just been so focused at the doors, but I definitely have two well-worn pairs of sneakers that started out as new. Had some help from some local small independent retailers to pick out some sneakers, and they're well loved at this point. But I'm enjoying it. It's been great to get at the doors, and I think that's one of these kind of conversations and those moments to hear from people, especially in the canvassing, has been so invigorating.
Interesting that in the city of Waterloo, everybody wants to start at the top. Everybody wants to be mayor as their first political job.
Yeah.
So you filed on May the 2nd, almost as early as you possibly could.
Yeah.
What was driving you to do that at that point? What was the thing that for mayor?
Yeah. So, I mean, what was driving me to be involved in the city, and I've been involved in the city and on some big, both city and regional files and committees. But what was really driving me to decide this was the moment, because we have some really big issues that we're trying to tackle at a local level, and that are going to impact the future, and hopefully our children and perhaps someday grandchildren will see Waterloo as a place, a livable place that they can call home. And I think now is the time for the kind of leadership that's going to help with that bigger picture planning around housing, around more complete communities, around how it all knits together to be a great place to live, work, learn, play, and hopefully run a business, right? And I think for your members, that's really important. And I know from working with a lot of small businesses in the community, that is important. And we have more to do on that because many are still recovering from what's happened with the pandemic. So that's what's driving me, and on some of the smaller things around creating more vibrant and connected neighborhoods. I was involved with the initial neighborhood strategy steering committee, and I see so much more potential in how we can create a sense of community, create a sense of belonging at the neighborhood level across demographics, across age demographics, and I really want to be a part of that next chapter.
And it's interesting when you take a look at the way Waterloo has changed over the past few years, because as we all know, the crane is the official bird of Waterloo because you see cranes everywhere. That's got to be a difficulty in connecting a neighborhood when you see so much of the uptown area dominated by high rises. It's not necessarily a system that allows for interaction, is it?
It has the potential to be, and I think it's when we create spaces and activities for people to gather opportunities. And sometimes it's just about empowering or almost getting out of the way sometimes of people that are motivated to create activities in their neighborhood. So Uptown is a great example. I don't know if you had a chance to enjoy Lumen Festival recently, but what an incredible opportunity for people to gather, with public art. Those swings in Uptown is an example of how even in places that are more intensified, if there are opportunities to activate, placemake, or create that sense of neighborhood. And I know I see it in Waterloo Park all the time. And so those are the kind of things, what can we do within the neighborhoods? And in many cases, neighborhood associations and neighborhood groups are already doing this with street parties. Whistler Old Abbey Neighborhood Association has had an amazing street party for the last few years, which spurred out of the pandemic and trying to bring people together. So I think, it can happen. It really can happen, even where we have, along the corridor and we have more intensification. We were working on that when I was involved with Laurier in the Northdale strategy, and looking at opportunities to do that as well in that area. And part of that is the built form. So I think that's really important for us to think about how we're making that space in place for people to come together and build a sense of community.
And I am, by the way, a fan of giant whimsical statues. So those swings really appeal to me. And I encourage everybody who runs for council, let's get some giant whimsical statues. We'll leave that for another time. You mentioned the housing issue, and it is so complicated because
Yeah.
for everybody who's upset that the price of houses have gone up, there's a whole bunch of people who own houses who are pretty happy with the fact the price of houses have gone up.
Right.
There's no getting away from that. But what can a mayor and council do
Yeah.
to have some impact on that issue?
Yeah, so really it's about using the municipal tools at our disposal. And in some cases, we're slowly moving in there with the language in our official, well, there's a new regional official plan that has gone to the province. It is using some more language that's thinking about how we look at zoning, for example, if we have infill development opportunities. But again, what does that look like from a complete community perspective? Because infill doesn't necessarily mean a big tower. And there's other ways that we can look at existing homes or developments and how they may be able to use other purpose-built rental form, for example, secondary suites. So we're seeing this language starting to come into some of our strategies. We haven't activated it yet in Waterloo. So the next piece for this next mayor and council, with working with staff and the expertise that's already in our community, is how can we properly activate those tools, because we do have land. I pass by it sometimes. We have massive concrete parking lots that people say to me, and I've been hearing this at the doors, like, why is that property not being developed? And people have we have a diverse spectrum of need. Absolutely. I hear from some seniors that really want to downsize from or right size from their what's been a single family home for them for many, many years, but they don't see an opportunity to move on to that. So they're overhoused. They recognize that, but they don't see anything in the community that would make sense to have them transition. So we need to think about those needs. We need to think about, people that are just looking to try and, rent and get started in the community. There's a diverse spectrum of needs, and all of this availability and affordability of housing is also causing a lot of other pressures for people that are unhoused or precariously housed as well. So we need to start getting some more housing, the right mix in the community, and start to look at the lands that are just been sitting there for a long time, not doing anything, and seeing how we can use municipal tools to encourage the development of those lands.
Let's talk a little bit about what we like to call these days unsanctioned gatherings. I've maintained there seem to be two camps here. There's the camp that says let the kids have some fun, and there's the other camp that says where's my bear spray. Those two.
Yeah. So, in an ideal world, I'll be honest, I paid part of the way I paid my tuition in university, and paid off my student debt afterwards was bartending. I worked, if you remember, Federation Hall in the glory days, and all of our great concerts there. And that was a great opportunity for students to have fun and be a part. But of course now we've seen a shift from in licensed establishment in a more controlled environment, obviously, to something different. I know, and like you said, you probably have heard from some of the other candidates, they have ideas around creating a sanction event or letting students plan an event. And what I'm trying to impart is, because I've been involved in the coordinated effort around unsanctioned gatherings, we explored that. In fact, years ago, it was attempted. And what happened was the party goers that were enjoying themselves in the sanction event, which also ended up being a real sort of security nightmare in many ways. For anybody who's ever run security and in licensed establishments, it's tricky, but do that outside or in a bigger space, it's even trickier. And then it spilled over into the street still. And so we ended up now with a spillover late night, onto the streets in the university district. And so that was explored. And so for the folks, and it's maybe an unfair advantage. I've been around this issue and have been part of the planning and involved in that task force work. You know, we've explored all of those options with students, right? That's another thing that maybe people misunderstand. Student leaders, students were significantly involved in those processes as well. I'm a former student leader myself, so I believe wholeheartedly that our students have to be engaged in the solution. The direction that it's been going, which is a more firm enforcement approach, is part of the overall coordination and the planning that all of the different stakeholders, including the city, have moved forward with. And I think that's why we saw on homecoming weekend that there was a lot of students saying, well, this isn't really fun because we're just being moved along. We can't even stay in one place or really enjoy. I'm not saying there weren't any problems that weekend, but I know that we have been steering the ship in the right direction. So there were a lot fewer incidents, and we need to keep moving in that direction because it's not even just spoiling the fun. What's been happening in those events and in those activities is a number of really dangerous things, including sexual assaults. And we need to keep moving in the direction where we don't want to create the conditions for those things to happen. And those really large gatherings can be ripe for some really dangerous activity beyond, just a big party.
Well, and it's such a difficult issue. And I know for people who think, well, we just need to stop this. Well, first of all, there's no real organizer. It's very organic. Yeah. And secondly, I think what we discovered from that incident of trying to create a sanctioned gathering, discovered the students don't want to go to mom and dad's party. They just don't.
My big idea was if I put my mom jeans on and walk down the street, then maybe
there goes the fun.
Spoil the fun.
Throw on a Michael Bublé CD and we're all finished.
Yeah,
Shannon, I appreciate you.
And I appreciate, I appreciate the intention of saying, why don't we just empower the students to? But I mean, even students and student leaders themselves have said, no, they don't want to try to manage the event either. And so, I don't always like saying we tried that, it didn't work, because I myself teach around, change and innovation and organizational behavior. But in this case, I really feel that a number of experts, including student leaders very close to this issue, said we can't try to plan a sanctioned event again.
Shannon, thank you for your time. I appreciate you taking it. I wish you the best of luck as Election Day comes up, and remind everyone else that voting day is October the 24th.